It changed into a peaceful morning at the human colony of Nova Terra. The solar turned into simply starting to peek over the horizon, casting a heat, golden light throughout the plush, green landscape. Birds sang sweetly in the bushes, and the mild breeze carried the fragrance of blooming flora. Children laughed and performed inside the park, their joyous voices echoing through the streets. Everything seemed to be as it must be, but unbeknownst to the unsuspecting colonists, an ancient and malevolent race referred to as the Kryl'Na had wakened from millennia of slumber, and that they had been hungry for conquest. Their unyielding gaze had fallen upon the peaceful human colony of Nova Terra, and that they saw it as their first goal of their quest to reclaim the galaxy. As the sun persevered to rise, the primary rays of mild pierced through the canopy of timber surrounding the colony, revealing a fleet of ominous, black ships soaring silently above. Their glossy, metallic hulls glinted menacingly inside the morning light, a stark assessment to the idyllic scene below. Without caution, the ships opened half, unleashing a barrage of devastating energy beams and missiles upon the hapless colony. The colony's primitive defenses have been no fit for the Kryl'Na's superior technology. Buildings crumbled below the relentless onslaught, sending clouds of dirt and debris billowing into the air. Citizens screamed in terror as they ran for cover, seeking protection from the relentless attack. But at the same time as the death toll rose, a small institution of brave people accrued at the colony's command center, decided to mount a desperate defense in opposition to the overwhelming odds. Their leader became a former military strategist named Marcus Hale. He had spent his existence studying the ancient texts of the Kryl'Na, learning their methods and weaknesses. Now, because the destiny in their colony hung in the balance, he knew that it turned into as much as him and his unlikely band of allies to store them all. The command center turned into a chaotic scene, with frantic colonists calling in reports and pleading for assist. Marcus Hale stood at the middle of it all, his face etched with determination and grief. Beside him, an advanced AI interface hummed and glowed, showing a tactical map of the colony and the Kryl'Na forces. "We cannot preserve out a whole lot longer, Marcus," said one in every of his lieutenants, her voice shaking with fear and exhaustion. "They're simply too effective." Marcus Hale noted grimly. "I recognize," he stated, "but we're no longer just going to roll over and die. We're going to fight again. We're going to make them pay for what they have got achieved." As they spoke, every other salvo of power beams and missiles rained down upon the colony. The command center shook violently, sending particles and papers flying via the air. The colonists cried out in pain and fear, but Marcus Hale remained resolute. He grew to become to the AI interface and started out issuing orders, his voice calm and consistent within the midst of the chaos. "All right, AI," he stated. "A time to carry out the big weapons." The AI hummed in acknowledgement, and a moment later, the command center was full of a low rumble as a effective power cannon powered up nearby. A targeting array locked onto the lead Kryl'Na cruiser, the AI suggested. "Stand by to interact." "Do it," Marcus Hale ordered. There turned into a high-quality flash of light as the electricity cannon fired, and a second later, the lead Kryl'Na cruiser exploded in a first-rate ball of fire. The impact rocked the command center once more. However, this time, it changed into a sense of triumph that coursed via Marcus Hale and his companions. "They may be powerful," Marcus Hale said, his voice constant and sturdy. "Ye however weave the element of wonder on our facet. We can hit them in which it hurts, and we will lead them to pay for the whole lot they have got carried out." His words regarded to encourage the others, and because the warfare continued, they fought with a renewed feel of cause and resolution. They launched guerrilla attacks in opposition to the Kryl'Na forces, the usage of their understanding of the terrain and the enemy's techniques to their gain. They sabotaged ships, disabled weapons, and ambushed enemy patrols. And with each victory, They grew more potent. Extra decided to store their colony and warn the rest of humanity about the impending hazard. As the times become weeks, the combating grew greater determined. The Kryl'Na forces, understanding that they have been going through sudden resistance, delivered in reinforcements and stepped up their assaults. Marcus Hale and his team found themselves pressured to retreat deeper into the colony, utilizing the community of tunnels and bunkers that were built for protection against radiation storms and other herbal disasters. The AI interface hummed and flashed, coordinating their efforts as high quality it can. It turned into becoming clear, but that they couldn't preserve out a great deal longer. The Kryl'Na have been too numerous and too effective. Marcus Hale knew that they should discover a manner to strike on the coronary heart of the enemy forces, or else they might all die here, by myself and forgotten. In the depths of one of the colony's biggest bunkers, Marcus Hale and his closest advisors huddled around a makeshift map desk. They pored over schematics of the Kryl'Na ships and weapons, looking for a weak spot, a chink in their armor that they may exploit. As they worked, the sounds of war raged on above them, growing step by step closer. At their flagship, Marcus Hale muttered, tracing a finger along the define of the largest Kryl'Na cruiser. That's where we want to strike. If we are able to take out their leader, the relaxation of them could be leaderless and extra inclined. His advisors exchanged glances. It changed into a determined gamble, but it turned into the handiest threat they had. They should release a suicide mission, sacrificing themselves within the wish of saving the rest of the colony. We'll need volunteers, Marcus Hale said, his voice consistent no matter the weight of what he become asking. Are those of you who are inclined to provide your lives for the extra exact? Silence fell over the organization as everybody considered their function within the coming battle. Marcus Hale knew that he could not ask anybody to do this. The choice needed to be theirs. In the stop, it became a younger pilot named Sarah who progressed, her eyes shining with dedication. I'll do it, Marcus, she stated. I'll take out their flagship. Marcus Hale nodded, his throat tight. Thank you, Sarah, he said. You're a brave lady, and the colony will never neglect what you have completed. With Sarah's volunteering, the plan turned into motion. The AI interface coordinated a series of diversionary attacks to attract the Kryl'Na forces away from their position. As the enemy ships had been distracted, Sarah and her small squad of warring parties released their attack. They raced through the darkness of space, weaving between the enemy ships and firing their guns at the huge flagship. The battle became fierce, but Sarah became determined. She dodged electricity beams and missiles with ability born of years of education, final in on her target with each passing 2D. Finally, she reached the flagship, and with a very last burst of velocity, she fired her fighter's final last missiles at the deliver's prone engines. There changed into a notable flash of light, and the flagship exploded, ripping itself apart in a massive chain reaction. The Kryl'Na forces had been left leaderless and disoriented. Marcus Hale and his team watched in awe because the last enemy ships commenced to show on every other, their ranks crumbling below the burden in their personal confusion. It was over. The Kryl'Na had been defeated. The colony had been saved. But there was no time to celebrate. The survivors had to emerge from their hiding locations and begin the lengthy technique of rebuilding. They ought to live with the expertise of what that they had carried out, and the price that they had paid for survival. As he watched the survivors stagger out of the bunkers and into the mild, Marcus Hale knew that they might in no way forget the sacrifice of Sarah and her courageous partners. They might inform their kids and their grandchildren about the heroes who had stored them, and in doing so, they would preserve alive the flame of wish that had carried them through the darkest hours in their battle. The colony's final combatants and protection platforms had been a sorry sight, scarred and battered from the battle, but nonetheless serviceable. The AI interface had accomplished its satisfactory to repair the damage at some point of the lull inside the fighting. However, there was no denying that they were outnumbered and outgunned. Even so, Marcus Hale refused to surrender. He might lead his people to victory, or die attempting. The Kryl'Na fleet continued to boost, their great armada of warships seeming to dam out the celebs as they approached. The air crackled with strength as laser blasts and particle beams lashed out from all sides, and the floor shook with the effect of the enemy's ordnance. Marcus Hale could feel the load in their coming near doom pressing down upon them. However, he refused to allow it wreck him. He would not allow his human beings down. As they braced for the very last assault, Marcus Hale amassed his closest advisors round him. They mentioned desperate gambits and suicidal fees, but in the end, they knew that there was best one alternative. They might have to release a suicide challenge, sacrificing themselves inside the hope of saving the rest of the colony. "We'll need volunteers," Marcus Hale said, his voice regular no matter the load of what he became asking. "Are those of you who are inclined to offer your lives for the greater top?" Silence fell over the group as anybody taken into consideration their role within the coming war. Marcus Hale knew that he could not ask all of us to do this. The selection needed to be theirs. In the end, it became a young pilot named Sarah who stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. "I'll do it, Marcus," she said. "I'll take out their flagship." Marcus Hale nodded, his throat tight. "Thank you, Sarah," he stated. "You're a brave girl, and the colony will never neglect what you've got done." With Sarah's volunteering, the plan turned into movement. The AI interface coordinated a series of diversionary attacks to attract the Kryl'Na forces away from their role. As the enemy ships were distracted, Sarah and her small squad of opponents launched their assault. They raced through the darkness of area, weaving among the enemy ships and firing their guns on the huge flagship. The struggle changed into fierce, but Sarah changed into determined. She dodged electricity beams and missiles with ability born of years of training, final in on her target with each passing 2D. Finally, she reached the flagship, and with a final burst of velocity, she fired her combatants' final ultimate missiles at the deliver's inclined engines. There changed into a top-notch flash of mild, and the flagship exploded, ripping itself aside in a massive chain response. The Kryl'Na forces were left leaderless and disoriented. Marcus Hale and his crew watched in awe because the closing enemy ships began to turn on every different, their ranks crumbling under the weight in their personal confusion. "This is our hazard," Marcus shouted into his comms unit. "We've got to capitalize on their confusion and strike difficult whilst we will." His words echoed through the colony, and the infantrymen answered with a convincing cheer. They knew that this turned into their one and handiest danger to turn the tide of the warfare. They started out to move ahead, advancing on the now leaderless Kryl'Na forces with renewed dedication. Sarah's squad joined Marcus at the front of the price. Their combatants mained the manner. They dodged and weaved via the chaos, choosing off stragglers and prone objectives with lethal precision. The Kryl'Na forces, nonetheless reeling from the lack of their flagship, were now in shape for the disciplined and well-coordinated attack. As they closed in on the enemy fleet, Marcus could see the worry in the Kryl'Na squad's eyes. They knew that they have been crushed, but they refused to give up. It changed into then that he found out the genuine cost of their victory. Limitless lives could be misplaced on both facets, and the scars of battle could for all time mar their world. Despite this, Marcus Hale couldn't assist, however, sense a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment welling up interior him. He had led his humans to victory in opposition to not possible odds, and for that, they would in no way neglect him. But he additionally knew that the authentic take-a-look at became yet to come. The long, hard road ahead within the aftermath of battle. The rebuilding, the recovery, the redemption. It turned into then that he vowed to do something it took to make sure that his colony survived and thrived inside the face of adversity. As the dirt settled at the battlefield, Marcus turned into approached by means of a collection of his maximum depended on advisors. They had heard his provide of peace and have been cautiously positive about the possibilities it provided. They knew, however, that there would be many obstacles to triumph over within the days in advance. There were individuals who could see Marcus' gesture as weak point, and they would be briefed to make the most it for their own benefit. He must be organized for whatever, Marcus, he considered one of his advisors warned. But there are those who could as an alternative see this international burn, then see it governed with the aid of absolutely everyone apart from themselves. Marcus nodded grimly. He knew that this turned into a fact that had been borne out again and again all through records. But he additionally knew that he could not permit himself to be swayed via such cynicism. He had seen the devastation of warfare firsthand, and he turned into decided to do anything it took to save it from occurring again. As he walked a number of the charred ruins of the battlefield, Marcus surveyed the carnage with a heavy coronary heart. So many lives have been lost, on each aspects. And for what? For land, sources, power? It appeared so unnecessary now, inside the aftermath of warfare. He wondered if the Kryl'Na leaders felt the equal manner. Perhaps, in the end, they could find common floor, a shared know-how of the futility of battle and the significance of cohesion. As he stood amidst the wreckage of what had once been a proud and powerful fleet, Marcus reached out to the Kryl'Na leaders once more, extending his hand in friendship and wish. The future, he knew, become unsure, but with dedication, braveness, and a willingness to paint things together, there,